He tells him to go to the bathroom and wash his hands because dinner's hot, and he stays gone 9 minutes, and he comes back and his hands are still dirty. You been there? You know what I'm talking about? This happens in nearly every house, nearly every night. There is this kind of struggle that goes on, and mother is getting more and more hot about it and is doing a lot more yelling and warning, and there's a great deal of irritation between the two of them.
Well, just look around.
Yeah.
What happens in airports and in schools and in public? You see that parents have no idea how to deal with those kids. You got 2, 3, 4-year-old kids who are already in charge at home because they've been taught not to confront and not to discipline.
Right.
But the scripture tells us otherwise. And I thought you might ask me about that. So Hebrews 12:7. It is for discipline that you endure. God deals with you as with sons. For what son is there whom his father did not discipline? But if you are without discipline, of which all have become partakers, then you are illegitimate children and not sons. There's 3 more verses there that describe the need for discipline.
Yeah.
A child feels like he doesn't belong.
Right.
If he challenges the authority at the home and nobody has the courage to confront him.
Dr. James Dobson passed away this week at 89 years old. And whether you agreed with him or not, there's no denying the man left a massive mark on American Christianity and parenting culture. For nearly 5 decades, his voice reached into millions of homes through radio broadcasts, books, and that organization he built from the ground up, Focus on the Family. This wasn't just some casual influence we're talking about. Dobson's daily radio show aired on over 4,000 stations, got translated into 27 languages, and reached more than 160 countries. His book, Dare to Discipline, became a bestseller that fundamentally shifted how Christian parents thought about raising their children. When that book came out in 1970, it offered a completely different approach from the permissive parenting style that Dr. Benjamin Spock had been promoting. Dobson presented himself as both a psychologist and a man of faith, which gave him unique credibility. He wasn't just quoting scripture about discipline, he had the academic credentials to back up his methods. Parents felt like they finally had someone who understood both the spiritual and psychological aspects of child rearing. His message was clear. Children need boundaries, they need structure, and yes, they need consequences when they cross those boundaries. The man built an empire around these ideas. Focus on the Family grew into this massive organization that influenced not just parenting, but politics, culture, and policy. Dobson advised 5 different presidents, participated in White House conferences, and helped shape evangelical political engagement for decades. He wasn't content to just write books. He wanted to transform society itself. His approach to discipline centered around what he called loving correction, including physical punishment when necessary. He argued that spanking, when done properly and with the right heart, was actually an expression of love. Parents weren't being harsh or cruel, they were teaching their children important lessons about authority, consequences, and moral behavior. This resonated deeply with Christian families who wanted to raise godly children in what they saw as an increasingly permissive culture. Dobson also understood media and entertainment. He created Adventures in Odyssey, this radio drama series that taught Christian values to kids through storytelling. He recruited well-known actors and built this whole universe of content that made biblical principles accessible to younger audiences. The man knew how to communicate, and he knew how to build platforms that reach people where they were. But here's where things get interesting, and why his death has sparked such intense conversations online and in Christian communities. The society that Dobson helped shape is now questioning many of his core teachings, especially around discipline and child rearing. Modern research on child development has moved in a completely different direction from what Dobson promoted. Studies consistently show that physical punishment, even when done with good intentions, can actually harm children's emotional and psychological development. The American Psychological Association, pediatric organizations, and child development experts are all saying that spanking is not just ineffective, it's potentially damaging. This has created this fascinating cultural divide that's playing out in families across the country. You've got grandparents who raised their children using Dobson's methods, and now they're watching their own kids choose completely different approaches to parenting. Young parents are rejecting the discipline styles they grew up with, often creating tension at family gatherings and holiday dinners. The online conversations have been particularly revealing. Adults who were raised in homes that followed Dobson's teachings are sharing their experiences, and the responses are all over the map. Some credit his methods with teaching them respect, responsibility, and strong moral foundations, but others describe growing up with fear, anxiety, and strained relationships with their parents. These personal testimonies have become impossible to ignore. People are talking about learning to comply outwardly while harboring deep resentment inwardly. They describe relationships with their parents that were built more on fear than genuine respect or trust. Some share stories about developing anxiety disorders, struggling with authority figures as adults, or having difficulty forming healthy emotional connections in their own relationships. The scientific research backs up many of these personal accounts. Brain imaging studies show that children who experience regular physical punishment develop differently than those who don't. The areas of the brain responsible for emotional regulation, decision-making, and stress response can be altered in ways that mirror more severe forms of trauma. This isn't just about immediate compliance, it's about long-term psychological development. Christian parents today find themselves caught between their faith traditions and what modern psychology is telling them. Many grew up believing that biblical discipline required physical punishment, that verses like "spare the rod, spoil the child" were clear divine mandates. Dobson gave them a framework that seemed to honor both scripture and science. But now that scientific understanding has shifted dramatically. Churches are grappling with this too. Pastors who once endorsed Dobson's approach are having to navigate conversations with younger families who want to raise godly children without using physical discipline. Some denominations are quietly moving away from promoting corporal punishment, while others are doubling down on traditional interpretations of biblical discipline. The generational divide is real, and it's causing friction. Older believers often feel like their parenting is being judged or dismissed as harmful when they know their intentions were good. They see their children and grandchildren as proof that their methods worked. But younger parents are looking at the same outcomes and seeing dysfunction, emotional distance, or patterns they don't want to repeat. Social media has amplified these discussions in ways that weren't possible during Dobson's peak influence years. Parents can now connect with others who share their experiences, access research instantly, and find alternative approaches to discipline that still align with their faith. The conversation is no longer controlled by a few influential voices. It's decentralized and democratized. Professional counselors and therapists are reporting increasing numbers of adults seeking help to process their childhood experiences with authoritarian or fear-based parenting. Many of these clients were raised in homes that faithfully followed Dobson's teachings, and they're working through issues related to shame, perfectionism, and difficulty with emotional intimacy. The irony isn't lost on many observers. Dobson spent his career promoting strong families and healthy relationships, but some of the methods he advocated may have undermined the very connections he was trying to strengthen. The question isn't whether his intentions were good. Most people agree they were. The question is whether his methods actually achieved the outcomes he promised. This doesn't mean everything Dobson taught was wrong. His emphasis on the importance of family, the need for children to learn responsibility, and the value of moral education still resonates with many parents. But the specific techniques, especially around physical discipline, are being questioned and often abandoned even within conservative Christian circles. As we process Dobson's legacy, we're really processing larger questions about how we understand children, development, and what it means to raise the next generation well. His influence was undeniable, but the conversation about his methods is far from over. If anything, his death has intensified the debate about how faith and modern psychology should intersect in our approach to parenting. The challenge for Christian families moving forward is figuring out how to honor their biblical convictions while incorporating what we've learned about child development. That's the conversation Dobson's passing has reignited, and it's one that will likely continue shaping Christian parenting culture for years to come.